We're going to talk about teams now. We talked a couple weeks ago. Teams that we think are meh that could take off and be surprisingly good teams like those worst of first. Those they came out of nowhere. Last year's Commanders, if you will. Now we're going to talk about teams that were good last year might be poised to be a bit of a letdown, unfortunately. So that doesn't mean they'll be bad. It just means expectations compared to reality might not line up perfectly. So we're gonna each pick a couple of teams. Kelsey, I'm gonna let you lead the way.
All right. Well, first one I'm going to start with is currently, if we go down the odds list, number 9 on the best odds to make the playoffs in the NFL. But I think this team has a sneaking suspicion of potentially not making the playoffs and being a dud. Maybe not even making it past fourth in their division. It's because they have a tough division, if we're being honest. It's the LA Rams. Starting
Interesting.
there, starting with a heavy one. Matt Stafford, I love the guy, but he looked old last year at times, and he looked lost. He does not have Cooper Cup anymore. Yes, it's the Puka show, but how good is Puka by himself? We saw it
Devontae Adams.
spurts, but we haven't seen him full time healthy as well. Look, yeah, Devontae's there. You got other pieces that you've gotten through the draft. It should be a good team. Young defense should be talented, but there's holes still on this team that have not been addressed.
I will say
Second,
too that that's a pretty good division on paper too. Like
yeah.
you got to imagine the 49ers might bounce back. Seattle's still a very building team. Cardinals were really good in spurts last year, so it's not like they could cakewalk through the division either. It might be very competitive. And through the first half of the year last year, the first 6 or so games, they were like 1-4 before they turned it on in the back half. So I'm curious, are they more like that early team that was also decimated by injuries, fair to be fair? Or are they gonna be like the team that nearly beat the Eagles in the playoffs? Or is it something in between? They're interesting for sure, especially in that division.
Yeah.
I'm gonna continue picking on the northeast part of the country. I'm gonna pick the Commanders as a team that could potentially be a letdown. They're minus 115, or sorry, plus 115 to miss the playoffs, minus 145 to make it. We talked about all the reasons they could make. Is now I'm gonna completely flip the script here. They won, I think it was 8 games last year by single digits, if I believe was the number. A lot of very close games that could have gone either way. We all remember the Bears being the Bears with the Hail Mary, plenty of other games that were right down to the wire. Do those kind of remember the Giants and the Vikings a couple of years ago when they made the playoffs? Do those end up flipping on their head? That's what I'm curious to see as well. There's the sophomore slump with rookie quarterbacks. We talked about a CJ Stroud last year. He still made the playoffs and won a playoff game because the Chargers imploded and that division that he plays in is absolutely terrible. Jaden does not get that luxury as the NFC East is really, really good. You have these Super Bowl champion Eagles in there. You have Kelsey's former Dallas Cowboys getting healthy again. You got the New York Giants who made a lot of really good moves in the offseason. Will it matter? I don't know. But they still made a lot of good moves. That's a very good division and a tougher schedule. So I'm pick the Commanders as a team that could some people are picking them as potential Super Bowl teams. I can see them as a team that maybe doesn't quite I don't know if they'll reach that. So I'm gonna pick the Commanders as a potential letdown.
By the way, eighth best odds to make the playoffs, the Commanders. But they do have that feel of a boomer bust type of season for them. Like this feels like the one that they could have a great step forward or a step back. But I did say it last year with CJ Stroud. I said I am a little nervous that he's not going to progress. He may be stationary. There may be injuries that cause harm to the good of the team. Feels like the Commanders and Jaden Daniels are kind of set for the same way. I don't think it's going to be a regression. I just think it's maybe a stationary year for him with some potential injury concerns. And also, look, we just talked about it. Terry McLaurin does concern me. If he doesn't re-sign, if he doesn't show up for week one, which I don't think he's going to hold out that long, but if he doesn't show up, like, what happens? You know, this defense is also kind of getting older. There's no ways around. Like, especially that linebacking core, they are getting older in linebackers. So, always a
Yeah, but
concern there.
there's also like we mentioned, like all the one possession games, everything like that too. It's just kind of weird when you look at it, considering they spent so much of their resources on offense when their defense was the issue, as I mentioned as well. You brought in Laramie Tunsil, you brought in a lot of good additions, but that's really tough. Are you gonna win a lot of those games the same way? I have my concerns as well, and we know the Cliff Kingsbury story has always been like very hot starts, faltering at the end. Last year he shook that a little bit, but does that continue? So there are questions for sure with the Commanders, but who else do you think who's another dud that you think could maybe underperform next year?
Yeah. So the first one was ninth on the list. My second one is higher on this list and higher than the Commanders. The fifth best odds to make the playoffs, and some people are even picking them as a Super Bowl favorite. So maybe you're going to catch some flack with this one, and I'm fine with that. I'll accept it. Team we just talked about, one of their players wanting out. That is the San Francisco 49ers. I'm going to stick with the NFC West for both of my picks. And part of it is the NFC West. That's why one of these two teams feels like a bust to me. Uh, but on top of that, this team rides or dies by health. And that can't happen. But in 3 years, we've seen this team get injured in the wrong moments. CMC last year is the perfect example for this team. Debo Samuel in and out of the season. When Ayuk went down with the ACL, decimated this receiving core. Juwan Jennings didn't miss anything, but also took him time to facilitate. George Kittle, his ankle continues to be a potential problem for 1 or 2 games a season. You know, there are question marks across this team for health purposes. And if I'm relying on a team to just stay healthy, that concerns me. Same with the Rams. It concerned me with the Rams. It concerns me with the Niners. On top of that, Brock Purdy, is he worth the contract? I've yet to see it right now. He's a winner, and there's nothing wrong with winners. We love game managers on this show. I'm fine with that. But right now, it feels like he's trying too hard to do anything. And that's a potential issue. And on top of that, hey, that contract negotiation can be bothersome if you don't sign it.
Oh,
So,
he did sign his though. Like
yeah,
he's locked in. Yeah. Okay.
But once you sign, you see it any time though. Something besides big money deals is more my point.
Is he going to be Trevor Lawrence or is he going to be Jordan Love? Which one are we getting?
You see it. You know, we talked about Sauce getting a new contract. We see it with corners all the time. We see it with quarterbacks the same way. You make that money that first year of that contract doesn't always pan out the way you'd hope. Not everybody can be Peyton Manning or Tom Brady, right? You're not going to be Drew Brees. Yeah, like we get a lot more Dak Prescott's and we get a lot more Tua's than we do Tom Brady's and Peyton or Lamar and Josh Allen. So my odds are concerning that this is going to bother the team in so many ways. And look, we still don't know what we're going to get with Brandon Ayuk. So lots of concerns for the Niners. But yeah, they're that last team I'm going to pick as a dud potential.
The 49ers are either winning 12 to 13 games next year or they're winning 5 or 6. There will be no in between when it comes to that team. They are either going to bounce back with a fury or they are going to fall completely by the wayside. Last one to pick is they're minus 115 to make the plus, minus 105 to miss it. So they're kind of down the middle. Some people think they can win their division. Some people think they're going to be terrible. I'm going to go with the Denver Broncos. That defense on paper looks absolutely outstanding. It was awesome last year. And then you add Jedi Barron on top of it. That is an awesome defense. Bo Nix accounted for 29 touchdowns last year as a rookie. That was awesome. Second most all time by a rookie. Sean Payton is a legit coach when he doesn't have Russell Wilson as his quarterback, as we have seen, or Taysom Hill. The running game, well, we'll see. There's some rookies, J.K. Dobbins. We'll see how they make that work. Cortland Sutton has been had a little bit of a rejuvenation. Evan Ingram into the offense. I like them. I like adding there. There's a lot to like. Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, etc. A very good offensive line, led by Quinn Miners as well. Lots to love about that offense and that team, but there's a lot of the offense was simple last year. A lot of it was simplified to help Bo Nix succeed. And I think a lot of the defensive teams are going to catch in onto some of that, and it's going to require him to take that next step, which I think he will. But I don't know if it happens right away. I don't know if he's going to immediately be able to snap it next year and be like, okay, everything that I was comfortable with last year, now they've taken that away. Now I got to take it step 2, step 3, step 4, etc. The Bo Nix experience, a high-low sports coin phrase. I think we'll see a little bit of it next year. Not to mention, the Chiefs are still the Chiefs. You got to deal with them twice. The Chargers are still the Chargers. You got to deal with them twice, and they also got quite a bit better. And the Raiders, they got exponentially better at quarterback, head coach, and running back. Like that, so that's another team. It's just if no other reason, the path is a lot harder on top of it. So I think they could be a team that some say with that defense they could win the division. The Chiefs are falling apart, depending on who you talk to. Or there's the opposite situation of, damn, we can't catch a break any week. We don't. Where's the cupcakes? They have a much harder schedule now as a playoff team on top of it. So I'm gonna take Denver as a team that could possibly maybe let down a little bit, depending on what your expectations are.
Yeah, I take a little offense to this.
It was a
So
direct shot. Don't worry.
yeah, and it's mostly because I picked them as my stud potential this season, and I think it's worth mentioning. You mentioned the simplification of the offense. This is Sean Payton's simplification, which for everybody else who doesn't know, that means it's the normal coach's regular offense.
I'm just saying there are certain things that it's a lot harder in the second year, as you mentioned, when teams kind
Yeah,
of see
it
what you
is.
like and they see what you know. I mean, it's just saying it
I,
gets a little bit harder.
I think the difference with the way Bo Nix played last season versus like a Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels did the same thing from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. It didn't change week to week. Bo Nix grew within his talents in the NFL, which means that there wasn't a full season of tape on him of what he could do. Like what he did at the back end is not the Bo Nix that played the first 7 games. And that means half his season, he's a different quarterback, which means you only have half of the tape you would on Jaden Daniels. So I think that's one difference for Bo that gives the opportunity there. But I think if we just pull Bo Nix out of this entire conversation, I think the rest of the Broncos got better. And I think that's the part of this that makes it surprising that you picked him, but not surprising. Because I agree with you that there's a potential for a bust. Wouldn't have been my pick because there's a couple teams that I think I'd pick a little bit more than them. But I see what you're getting at with this because you do have a lot of new pieces coming in and being added to it. And you don't know how well they're going to mesh. And let's not lie about this. Let's not sugarcoat it. Sean Payton as a coach is not the most lovable guy.
I do want to point out too, they did win 5 of their last 7 games to get to that 7 seed, but those teams they beat were Atlanta right during the Kirk Cousins implosion, the Raiders, who we just kind of mentioned exponentially terrible, the Browns, who is the Browns, the Colts, who are absolutely terrible. They lost to the Chargers and the Bengals in overtime, and then they beat the Chiefs backups in Week 18 to get in there as well, which is when Bo Nix accounted for 4, 7, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 of those touchdowns, give or take. He got a lot better. I don't know if you're going to be able to catch, like, sometimes the schedule plays out perfectly where you get a lot of those teams in the right spot where you're able to get into that 7 seed. Now they're not sneaking up on anybody. So that defense is still going to be legit. Like, we're playing fantasy football. Give me that defense, arguably number 1 overall. Not overall.
Maybe not
Excuse
that
me.
high.
Number 1. If we're drafting defenses, that might be one of the first defenses I take a look at with their interception potential with that secondary. I just think that road's a lot tougher now. You're not going to get 2 wins against the Raiders next year. And I don't think you're going to get 2 wins against the Raiders next year.
Yeah, I mean, look, they get a break in the last 6 games. They play the Jaguars in one of those 6 games, but those remaining 6 games down the stretch this year, Commanders, Raiders, Packers, Chiefs, Chargers. Good luck. The start of their season is a little more favorable.
They get 2
Titans,
they get 2
Colts.
they get 2 weenies right out of the gate at least.
Chargers, that's a 50-50 game. Bengals, well, if they don't sign Shamar and Trey Hendrickson, you don't have to worry about a pass rush.
Yeah, they didn't have to worry about it last year. They just went to overtime. Then you got the Eagles, the Jets, the Giants, Cowboys. It gets a little bit shaky, as we mentioned. That they got to come out of the gate firing. That's for sure.
Their first 10 games, they can easily get 7 wins, but you could also lose 7 games in that first 10 games if you're not careful. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see with the Broncos. Second year for all those moving pieces. It'll be interesting to see how they connect. I get where you're coming from. Was a little surprising to me. Also, just because I picked him as a stud. But I think from a neutral standpoint, it feels like, again, the boom or bust type of team.
They could be a stud too. Like, maybe the Chiefs do fall off, and then that defense is that good. They could be a stud, but they're also a lot of things to point to. They can go either direction. I don't know if they're going to perfectly repeat what they did last year. That's where I look at it too. I think they're either, oh snap, they have home field advantage. Everyone's coming a mile high, or, well, damn, that didn't go our way at all. I feel like they are not going 9-8 again. It's either 12 or 6 for win total.
And to be fair, for this team to be a bust is not making the playoffs.
That's exactly where we're going. That's why it's poised to let down, guys. I'm not hating on Denver, so don't come chasing after me from the top of your mountains with your pitchforks. I'm saying expectations are there now.
Yeah,
so it could be a little bit of
a worst case scenario of winning too early.
Exactly. But then again, they're still paying Russell Wilson to not be on the team, and they're still winning. So you know what? At the end of the day, Broncos fans, you got it pretty good right now, considering